My title is Keeper of the Far Files, and my work is silence. I catalog what the Dravasi Concord does not wish to remember, and I am very good at my work, because most of what I catalog wants to stay forgotten on its own. I have held in my hands the command logs of 3 armadas that did not come home. I have read the last words of cartographers who drew the border and then asked never to be assigned near it again. None of those files troubled me the way Ayentha's does, because Ayentha did come home, and that is the part the Concord cannot make peace with. I keep her file in the deepest gallery of the Cathedral of Records, behind a door that requires 2 keepers and a council seal to open, though there is nothing inside it that could hurt anyone. No weapon schematics, no coordinates beyond the ones every star chart already shows blank. Only a survey log, a crew manifest with 30 of its 31 names, struck through in the Concord's morning ink, and a single recorded sentence, spoken by Ayentha herself on the day she was carried off the far reach, which I am forbidden to repeat aloud inside these walls. I will tell you what it says, because you are not Dravasi, and our forbidding does not bind you, she said. They let me go so that I would tell you not to come. Then she said nothing else, in any language, for 2 full cycles. The Cathedral of Records was built for exactly this kind of grief, long before I was born into the keeping of it. Every gallery beneath its black vaults holds a different shape of loss: failed colonies, broken treaties, the names of species who no longer exist to claim their own histories. But only one gallery requires 2 keepers and a council seal, and that is the gallery built around the dead zone the old charts call human space. The Concord does not forbid many things outright. We are a curious people, by nature and by training, and curiosity does not enjoy being told no. But 11 generations of keepers before me decided, one quiet vote at a time, that this border deserved a forbidding stronger than any other on record, and they built this cathedral's deepest vault to hold the evidence of why, so that no keeper after them would ever have to take the forbidding on faith alone. I was assigned to her file in my youth, when I still believed that enough patience could open any door. The survey itself was unremarkable in its beginning. The Far Reach was a mapping vessel, not a warship. Its charter was to confirm, finally, whether the dead zone the old charts called human space had grown or shrunk in the 11 generations since anyone had dared approach it. 31 crew, no weapons beyond what treaty required, a historian's caution rather than a soldier's. They were not fools. They were curious, which the Concord has always treated as a milder sin, and paid for as though it were the gravest one. The log shows the approach exactly as such approaches always look: a long silence on every channel, the kind of silence that has texture, that presses against a hull the way deep water presses against a diving bell. Their sensors found nothing: no fleet, no defense grid, no single structure marking the line they were crossing, beyond the absence of every star chart marking before it. The captain's final entry, 6 hours before contact, reads only, "It feels watched, and I cannot say by what." I have read that line more times than any other sentence in this cathedral, and it is the one that wakes me at night, because watched is not a word a cartographer reaches for lightly. What happened after is not in the log, because the log stops there. What happened after exists only in the hull telemetry, recovered intact, and in the bare arithmetic of the manifest. The Far Reach suffered no damage, no hull breach, no weapons discharge, no trace of any engagement at all. The ship that came home was, by every instrument that examined it, a ship that had never been touched. And yet of the 31 souls who crossed that line, 30 did not come back. And the Concord's investigators, for all their instruments, could never determine where they had gone, or how, or why the one who remained showed no wound of any kind. The Concord's investigators spent the better part of a cycle on that ship before they admitted, in language as careful as any I have ever filed, that they had found nothing to investigate. No forced entry on any hatch, no residue, no foreign tool marks, no signature on the hull that did not belong to the Far Reach's own crew. The medical examiners who studied Ayentha found her whole, no restraint marks on her wrists, no surgical scarring, nothing a body keeps when something has been taken from it by force. Whatever had happened to the other 30 had left no fingerprint anywhere a Dravasi instrument could read, which the investigators eventually wrote down, with great reluctance, as its own kind of finding. This is the part the council will not put in any public record, and the part that I think every keeper in this cathedral privately understands better than we are permitted to say. Whatever waited for the far reach did not need to fight it. It only needed to choose. 30 were kept, for purposes no log will ever explain, and one was returned, deliberately, as a courier for a single sentence. That is not the behavior of a frightened species defending its border. That is the behavior of something old enough, and certain enough, that it no longer needs to prove its strength to anyone who crosses. It only needs them to leave knowing they were permitted to. I visited Ayentha 17 times across those 2 cycles. The cathedral keeps her in its quiet wing, in a room with no chart on the wall, and no window facing outward, because the physicians decided early that any reminder of distance unsettled her in ways they could not name. She was, by the time I knew her, an old woman by Dravasi reckoning, her crest gone silver, her hands very still in her lap. I brought her tea she did not drink, and questions she did not answer. I told myself, each time, that patience was a kind of key. I no longer believe that. I think now that some doors are not locked. I think some doors simply choose, on their own terms, never to open again, and no patience on the other side of them will change that choosing. On my last visit, I did not bring a question. I sat across from her in that windowless room, and I told her, instead, what the council intended. That the sector would be formally struck from every active chart, the designation reaffirmed under the oldest forbidding clause we have, and her file sealed behind the 2-keeper door for as long as the cathedral stands. I told her this so that she would know, whatever she had carried home in her silence, that it had been heard, even if it had never been spoken. She looked at me for a long moment. Then she did the only thing she had done in 2 cycles that was not stillness. She reached out, very slowly, and laid her hand flat over mine, once, the way an elder blesses a child before a crossing no one expects them to survive. She did not speak. She never spoke again. She died the following winter, and the council closed her file the same week, and I sealed the door myself, with my own 2 keys turning against the lock at the same instant, the way the old protocol requires. I do not know what waited for the far reach in that dead zone, and after this many years in this cathedral, I have come to suspect that not knowing is the entire shape of the warning. We did not lose a fleet there. We lost 30 names and gained 1 silence, and the silence has done more work in 2 cycles than any battle report I have ever filed. It has kept every survey ship in the Concord fleet a full sector's width from that border without a single new order being issued. Fear, when it is old enough, no longer needs enforcing. It only needs remembering correctly, which is the one duty I have left. The council has already begun drafting the next forbidding clause, the language nearly identical to the last, as it always is. Some new captain, in some new generation that did not live through Ayentha's silence, will read the old warning as a relic rather than a record, the way every generation does, and will ask why a species this advanced still bothers marking a line with nothing visible standing guard at it. I cannot stop that captain from crossing, any more than the keepers before me could stop the far reach. I can only make certain the file is here, sealed and intact, waiting in the dark behind its 2 locks, so that whoever survives to ask the question afterward will at least have somewhere true to look. I do not expect they will. I expect, as Ayentha did, that the only honest answer left to give will be silence, offered exactly once, and never repeated.